What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. And today I brought my friend, my pod pal, Ankita Terrell on from the Heart Led Entrepreneur podcast. We're talking about all things mastermind and monetization tips for podcasters. And you all know I've been really ramping up towards this mastermind idea for 2024. I'm planning on launching my first one. I've been doing some preparation and a lot of just seeing what's working out there. And Ankita is one of my clients, and I was like, you got to come on the show because she has a very successful mastermind. So Ankita, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. It's great to be here.
So first off, like you're a new-ish podcaster. Like you're within your first 6 months or so having a show. How's it going so far?
Oh my gosh, it's honestly incredible. I love podcasting so much. Adam, I have been surprised by just how easeful it's been when I dropped the pressure off myself and just was like, I'm having honest conversations. I've gotten incredible guests on. I have generated clients from podcasting, and I ranked in the top 100 at launch, and I even was top 40 recently when I checked back in. So it's been really good. And we worked together right as I was launching the podcast, and everything that you kind of always say about remembering that like a podcast is a part of my business and I shouldn't forget that. And it's been so much fun, honestly. Like I have absolutely loved being a podcast host. My podcast is doing really great. I've had amazing success with it in a lot of different ways, and I'm really grateful.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you because you're out there really helping people. And I love your message of being a heart-led entrepreneur and, adding value to a community to be able to help other people level up with their business and their lives and the way that they operate and show up. So I think it's a super cool show. You all have to check out Heart Led Entrepreneur. You got to go and, do all the podcasting things, the subscribing, the ratings, the reviews, the glowing remarks on her feed. But I brought you here today to talk about masterminds
Hmm.
because as we were looking at what I refer to as a podcast monetization pyramid, like different ways that we can produce income, different price points, things like that. I was really intrigued by what you're doing with your mastermind, how you're doing it, because you seem to really have a nice pull. Like your audience, even before you launched a podcast, like you were doing really well with this type of an offer, and you're getting great results. So I'm interested in how the initial mastermind idea kicked off for you. Can you kind of tell us that story?
Yeah, so I've been a coach since early 2021. And coaching is such a wonderful profession. I really love it very deeply. I'm trained in a pretty comprehensive methodology, and when I work with clients one on one, it's evolving on all levels of change, and it's like they're being their best selves. They're stepping into entrepreneurship. Most of my clients that I work with are very successful corporate jobs, wanting to start a business, or they've been running a business wanting to really kind of redo everything and step into alignment and flow. So when I work with clients one on one, it's very involved, it's very in depth. It's kind of like a process of like total transformation. And I realize that sometimes people just have strategic questions. They just really want to like get from point A to point B and be held while they're doing it, have accountability while they're doing it. Um, and so really the idea for a mastermind came from having a space where high level founders that have their own individual one-on-one coaches, or they're good in the other aspect of life and business, have a community for support where they don't feel like they're all by themselves in scaling their company from $100,000 to like 500,000, or from like 200,000 to 700. That's usually the kind of clientele that I get in the mastermind. So it was really like, hey, like I know how to scale my business, but I feel really alone and burned out, and I need to be figuring out how to make more while working less, or like growing a team, etc. So that's where the idea started from, was like they don't need the total transformation piece because they're covered, but they want the strategic guidance and the community. And then the second part of that equation was that I had met this incredible other founder who we were figuring out how we wanted to collaborate because we're very different. My background is very much in, I studied analytics. I worked in venture. I am very spiritual. I worked in large B2B nonprofit fundraising, funding climate innovations. And she is a fashion entrepreneur, scaled her first company to 1 million, raised venture, lives in the West Coast. I live in DC. So like we're very, very different. And we realized that there was an opportunity for collaboration, and especially for the founders that are at that higher level. So we actually run a mastermind together, her and I do. And we're now recruiting for our fourth round that starts in September of 2023.
Amazing. And I, of course, know most of this story, but um, it's really working well for you. And it seems like I love how you're collaborating. You're each bringing your own strengths. And I'm very curious about the format because I know what you're doing is working. And we've had some brief conversations on, well, there's different types of mastermind formats that you could do. And really, there's no wrong answer. There's just maybe wrong application of a technique. So I think you have to understand the goal of the mastermind and then the technique of the mastermind that will best help your mastermind attendees achieve that goal. First, I mean, do you feel like I'm on the right track there? And then maybe let's talk about how you run yours and some different ways that masterminds could potentially be run.
Yeah. So essentially, the whole idea of a mastermind is it's a peer led or a community of support where it's almost like the boardroom for solopreneurs. That's kind of how I think of it. It's like a space where you can have honest, vulnerable conversations with other entrepreneurs. And I like to think of masterminds as a very even playing field where you're really wanting each other to succeed and support each other, as opposed to, me standing up on stage and talking at the people in the mastermind. Um, and so really it's a combination of fostering that space where they have guidance from a coach, where they can bounce off ideas off me and off my co-founder Emily, but also they have each other for support. Um, and I think that what's really important in setting up a mastermind is being super clear on that, like on that baseline for like where are these people currently at and where do they want to go, and they all need to be in a similar space. Like I've heard of masterminds for like working moms or masterminds for like new founders. It doesn't really matter like what stage of business you're in, but typically a mastermind is a space for that vulnerable conversation, and it is typically a higher ticket than just buying a course or a group program.
Okay. So you've got my wheels turning. Whenever we talk, even when we do our coaching sessions, you spark ideas in me too. This is why you're such a good coach. I have so many ideas kicking around on this with my own. Obviously, I'm going through this thinking process for my own business. How do you feel about the specificity of the mastermind? Like you're kind of alluding in my mind to like, it's better to have a very specific goal as opposed to a broad goal. So for example, I could have a podcasting business mastermind where we talk about all things business, growing a business, whatever. Or I could have a more specific niche within that and go, okay, this 6-month mastermind is all about building your first podcasting business funnel or email marketing. Like, how do you, I mean, is there room for both of these? If you feel like as a first one, where do we start? Any suggestions there?
Yeah. Okay. So, right. If I was coaching you, I would just ask you, right? Like, where in their podcasting journey are most of your clients at where they need the mastermind? And to me, your first topic of just like podcasting in business is specific enough to me. It's like they're a podcaster, they're service based, they're trying to monetize and create what you would call anytime offers or whatever out of their podcast.
Right.
And what I would do is create some sort of structure. So either month one, we're focusing on funnels. Month two, we're focusing on email list building. Month three. So it allows them a little bit of structure, but it also allows that that like open space for, okay, you might have done this already, you're just revisiting it, or maybe you have a completely different question. You can totally bring it as long as it's relevant to podcasting and monetizing via the podcast. Um, and I think to that extent, I think that because it's a live container, it's really important. Like I have learned, it's really important to listen to the feedback and just like regularly check in with everyone that's in the mastermind for like, how is this working out for you? Like, what else do you want us to cover or to talk about? And so every single week is like, giving people the opportunity to be in a hot seat. And
Yeah.
like what I love doing is I've actually heard of masterminds where they have access to teaching topics. And so like, um your podcast mastermind audience could have access to your course that is really well laid out, that is very clear, but that is not the topic of conversation for the mastermind. To be like, you can cover, like, you can study this in your own time. I'm not going to waste your time talking about this. And every week we talk about the structure of like emails, list building, funnels, etc. And do hot seat style coaching. And the whole episode is first I tell you what I kind of think and like help you brainstorm it on it, and then we open it for anyone else to give that feedback. And everyone learns too while they're in that collaborative environment, coming up with solutions for each other. And then the last thing I want to say about this is sometimes people are just like, I can't even think about this because I have something else that's on my mind and I really want to talk about it. So also having space for them to bring up whatever the heck they want to. Sometimes it's just life, and they just like, they're just like, hey, like I literally haven't slept in days because I have a little kid. Like, how do you guys navigate that? And that's very much part of our business because it affects how we operate in the world. So
Yes. Okay. I love what you just said because I'm a very process driven person and I'm already racking my brain on like the format of we meet up. What is the flow? Because I have to have a game plan moving into that. I can't be like, AMA, ask me anything. Let's just figure it out. Like, I can't, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I can't operate that way. That would drive me crazy. So, what you're saying is a format that you've used with success is I can show up, I can teach on a topic, kind of set the tone, and then we have open discussion on that topic, maybe also hot seats where we kind of
yes,
identify a person and dive in specifically on them on that topic. And at
exactly.
the,
Of being like, hey, let's do this for your business. So this is
yeah,
what I'm thinking. Like, what else can you do?
yeah. Okay. And with the hot seats, is that a sign up? Do you pick people? Is it spur of the moment? How does that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends on how large your mastermind is, because if a mastermind is, like I have found the sweet spot to be 8 to 12 people. Um, and the reason is just because it's large enough where they really can get to know each other and get to collaborate with each other, but it's not too large where you cannot focus on everybody. You can see everyone on one single Zoom screen, and that's really important to me. So I've tried both. I've tried like sign up in advance for this, but sometimes people just have a burning question in the moment. And so I think it's worth doing, kind of just being flexible of having some sort of a plan for like, okay, like this is the person that's already signed up for the hot seat. um but also being like, hey, like does anyone else have anything burning that they want to talk about, because we have 10 extra minutes for a hot seat, and then this
Yeah.
person will be in the hot seat. And then the other thing that I did was sometimes I would like actually just put in a pure hot seat coaching session in between the curriculum. So like there's nothing, there's no topic of the day, there's no teaching topic. It's just like, let's talk about what you've been doing, what's working, what isn't, where are you stuck. Like get in the hot seat and let's brainstorm how to get you out of the stuckness.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I love any idea pertaining to a mastermind that involves just getting people involved, letting them feel heard. Um, I don't want this to be something that I show up to and just preach
Right.
like a podcast episode, right? Just talking to the mic and you guys sit and be quiet and listen and absorb. Like I want it to be collaborative and people kind of building a synergy from each other and their own ideas and things like that. So that's gonna be something that I'm really gonna challenge myself on is facilitating that collaboration and that communication. Are there any other techniques that you've used to really get that community connection and engagement going outside of even the mastermind meetups themselves?
So I actually have a really important tip to share as you cultivate a mastermind community, and that is the thing that I created within the mastermind that I think was truly the like needle mover in the success of the mastermind was having a calendar where I connected one person to somebody else in the mastermind on a calendar schedule. So to be like, your homework for this week is to connect with this person within the mastermind. And however long your container is, they have a chance to connect with everybody. And out of that, I have seen new businesses born. I've seen collaborations. I've seen just the most incredible outcome from that connection piece. And so, really, like the selling point of the mastermind is not only do you get access to me, you get access to this community that has your best interest and that will really help you in your journey to becoming a like successful podcaster who makes money off their podcast.
Okay, so I love that idea. I used to be in a networking group, a local networking group, when I owned my fitness facility called BNI, and they kind of, really encouraged go and meet somebody else for coffee and do one-to-one meetings to get to know other members. So you're facilitating that. Like, so describe the specifics on that because I'm really interested in this idea. So do you have a link where they can go and just meet and sign up for each other? Are you making an introduction, say, hey, so and so, you should meet this other
Oh yeah.
person, or how's that facilitating that?
Yeah, I mean, I try to make it as simple as possible for everyone
Exactly.
involved. So when they first signed up, I requested all of them to put in their Instagram accounts and their email address. And then I created a directory, or like our VA really created the directory out of everyone that is in the mastermind. And then we created like a week one topic we're covering, your homework and your weekly match. Week two. So like that was all on a schedule, like predetermined. And we told them, like,
Okay.
look, like we're not in school. So like if you can't meet this week, just make it up another week. But this is for your benefit. So really try to do all of the matches. And like if you do it in the week, you're not going to be overwhelmed doing it in the very end. So like just do it that week.
I love that. The weekly match, like, and you would actually pair them up with
Yeah.
somebody specifically.
Yes.
And did you have their calendar links built in, or how did that work? Or was it just
Well,
like, here's the introduction, you guys figure it
uh-huh.
out? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was more here's the introduction, but what we did was like person one will email person two at a time. And so like you put, people, you just make sure that basically it's not like, oh, somebody's going to email you. You're just like, hey, like it's up to you guys to coordinate. We suggest person one emails person two, but if you don't hear, just email them. And
Yeah.
like everything is on the schedule. You have the whole directory. On the first day, we really gave space so everyone would introduce themselves in their fullness. Like we have enough time to like really talk about everybody. Like the first day, I would not do any learning, any teaching. It's just like for them to really get to know each other and to develop that community. And on that day, like we had everyone follow each other on social media. And for your case, it would be like, hey, like all of these podcasts, like subscribe to these two. You can even create a calendar to be like subscribe to these two podcasts, so that not everyone is subscribing to the same one, but they're subscribing. Like everyone gets a subscriber. Um, and be
Love
like, hey,
it.
like your job is to go rate and review this one show that like you were, just so that you guys all feel supported and in community.
I love it. What do you think about having members of the mastermind actually teach a little bit at some point, whether that's at a meeting? I thought about putting a call to action out there within my group and be like, hey, record a 10-minute business tip video that I can put in our video library and share with everybody that shows off your expertise a little bit. It doesn't have to be about podcasting at all, but just business or, business tips, business hacks, anything like that. What do you think as far as having them teach in some format like that?
So I love that. And I mean, I would take it a step further and say sometimes when people ask me questions on the mastermind, I leave myself muted and let somebody else answer it. And it's not because I don't know the answer to the question. It's because I don't want them to feel like they don't have their own resources or their own answer. It's about removing that pyramid structure. Like a mastermind to me is a very like collaborative space. And in answering somebody else's questions, they'll get their own answer. And so like I take teaching as far as even letting them be like, hey, look, what do you guys think? I'm not gonna answer this question. And then I'll add on things that I think at the end. but I just let somebody else take it.
Yeah.
And that to me doesn't decrease my value or worth or knowledge as a coach, but it's me being a good facilitator and trusting them in the moment to, like, nothing would make me happier than if they hired each other. Like, that's great. They're already paid me, they're already in the mastermind. So I think that the teaching moment is like, yes, it's really great to have this. And like one time, what I even did was set up like office hours to be like, hey, like this person is a really great copywriter and that's their expertise. Like, why don't we set up this office hours and you guys can go and like ask them questions, or they can review your copy, or they can do audits or whatever. So the 10-minute episode is great. But I think just to take it further, it's even every conversation is like allowing them to step into their expertise in their area.
Yeah. Honestly, that's probably my biggest, I don't know if it'd be a fear, but worry. Um, I can really pin back my ears and start blasting away with information quickly. Like somebody asks a question, I'm like, all right, and for the next 15 minutes, I will answer this question all by myself. I have to be able to get away from that. Like I have to be able to let other people's voices chime in and be heard. So I really feel like I'm going to have to um, set the tone at the beginning and really highly encourage other people to chime in first, and I'll kind of add my 10 cents in at some point.
Yeah, it's
Um,
about changing your perspective from like coach to facilitator
yeah,
while you're in the mastermind, right? And you will still answer questions, but I think it's like even putting a post-it next to your computer, like next to your camera, whatever, and just like the question of like, what do you guys think? You know, just
or
leading with, what do you guys think? And
shut
like
up,
muting yourself.
Adam.
No, be kind, be kind. I'm a coach. I need to tell you that. Be kind to yourself. But it's just like you have to change that behavior of wanting to, because it comes from a place of wanting to help because you know the answer to the question. But it's like releasing them of the over reliance and asking you questions and being like, okay, like what do you guys think? How would
Yeah,
you solve this?
yeah. Okay. Sticky note noted. Sticky note. What do you guys think? I'm on it.
Uh-huh.
That will be going onto my computer laptop ASAP. Um, you and I have interacted on the Voxer app. Like when you do coaching with me, I love the Voxer app. How do you feel about Voxer app access for mastermind participants? I know there's like group chat feature
Mhm.
potentially. There's one-on-one conversations. Do we use it at all? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I do. And the reason is because so much work happens between meetings. I don't want it to be a week or, sometimes 2 weeks. So I definitely think it's really good to have Voxer. I would encourage anyone that's starting a mastermind, based on my own experience of doing this for like 3 times and now a fourth, to do group, because sometimes the questions that people ask are actually really supportive to everybody else. And you can like let people know that they do not need to listen to every single Vox. But if something is relevant, because sometimes it gets really noisy in there with that many people, like
Yeah.
some people just leave Voxes that are like 5 or 6 minutes long, and you're like, okay. So like, so you can say like you don't need to listen to every single Vox, but in case it's supported to you, feel free to listen to any, but you will listen to their Voxes, and you can always tag somebody else that it's relevant for.
Okay.
um and so just, I think it's a good space to even keep that community aspect going from one week to the next. Actually, speaking of which, I have two other things that I wanted to share with you about
Yeah.
Mastermind that I found really helpful. I think it's really helpful to put in integration or break weeks into your work together, so that it's not actually meeting back to back for 10 weeks straight, but it's like giving them a break after 3 weeks or after 4 weeks. And like just giving breaks every few weeks, because, you know, they probably have other things that they work on in their business too, not just this. And sometimes they fall behind and they just want to catch up, or they've missed calls and they want to catch up on the recording. So it's just like giving that space to breathe where they don't
Yeah.
have to come every week.
Implementation, like having just a little implementation break so you can like catch
Yes.
up, implement, not feel, because we all have signed up for things and maybe we start feeling like we're behind, and that's makes it a lot easier to go, screw it, let's just hit the total pause button here and not participate. So I really like that idea, Akadem.
Yeah. And my other thing that I do, and you and anyone listening that wants to start a mastermind can take this or leave this, but I have found even though it takes time to do 60-minute coaching calls with every participant in the mastermind one on one first. Um, and I think that that just allows you to have context for where they're at, where they're coming from, what their fears are, what holds them back. Like just to understand them, and like otherwise it's easy as a coach to be like, hey, like what's been going on? You aren't showing up, or like whatever. So like it's just good really to like have that moment of trust, that moment of like connecting one on one on a deeper coachy level. So like I would start, and that's how we start all our coaching calls, or like our mastermind is we do a 60-minute onboarding call. And in the 60-minute call, we'll understand where they're at, what they're building to, and like just like what's helpful to them. How do they want to be reminded when they fall off track? How do they want to be held accountable? Is there anything else you should know? Who else is the decision maker in their family or life? Like just questions that you would ask if you're working with someone as a private client.
Yeah. So this might be a good time to just kind of unpack the flow of your mastermind and what is included, how things work from a week to week or month to month basis. Can you kind of just go through the general format of somebody signs up? Okay, we've got a 60-minute onboarding session. When do the group sessions start? How often? Things like that.
Yeah. So great question. So as a reminder, our mastermind is for female founders that are doing $100,000 or more in revenue, that are like, okay, like I've built this business, but where do I go from here? I'm trading time for money at this point, or I just want to be in alignment with the kind of life and business I wanted to build. I have a new goal. How do I expand my product and services? All of that, right? So like that's the gist of what our mastermind is and who it's for. Um, we do an onboarding call with every single person. And again, I have actually gone through many transitions. I've tried many different things. We did 60-minute, then we increased it to 90-minute calls, then we reduced it back to 60. The 60-minute call is understanding what their business is and what their purpose is in life, like outside of their business. Like, why did you start this business in the first place? Like, what does success mean to you in your business, in your life? Like, how are you doing in life and in business? What would make you happier? Is it making more money, or is it having more time back? Is it having a team? Is that something you want? Do you want to create an agency? Like just understanding them on an individual level, so that the mastermind is also targeted to them. So that's what we do. We do 60-minute onboarding calls with absolutely everybody. People then have the opportunity to upgrade and also buy additional calls with us, like additional one-on-one calls that we can do throughout the mastermind to continue supporting them one-on-one. But in terms of the mastermind structure, we meet for 90 minutes every other week.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, not every other week. What am I saying? We meet for 90 minutes, 3 weeks on, 1 week off.
Okay.
Yeah, 90 minutes,
Okay.
3 weeks on, 1 week off. And we do that for 9 sessions total.
Okay. Outstanding. So what's the total timeline then on from start to finish? What does that look like calendar wise?
So we start our sessions mid-September and we're done the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay, cool. All right. This is so helpful just to paint a picture. Because we hear the word mastermind and there's a lot of stuff that pops up and we see things done in different ways. So this is nice just being able to unpack a successful mastermind and go, okay, these are things. This is a format that is actually working, especially in a fellow entrepreneurial space. So this is really helpful for me.
Yeah, one
Especially.
other thing to say though is that sometimes, we actually call in experts, and you'll only know that once the group is together and you've done one or two sessions. So like in the past, we had a lot of people talk about how they really want to get press. And I have gotten press successfully. So like I could tell them, but really I don't actually know that much compared to someone who is a publicist who does this day in and day out. And so sometimes we'll hire people to come in and, like building that even cost structure into your mastermind to say you could make an introduction, but what if it was just part of your built in structure to say, my budget is hypothetically is $500 and I'm going to get 2 experts just depending on what people need, if that works out. Or like if you know someone well, then you can do a deal with them where they come into yours and you go in to teach them. That's fine
Right.
too. But it's like allowing that space for everyone to thrive, so you get to know them and you get to know what they need, and then calling in the experts, because sometimes I'm not the expert, even though I would like to be.
Right. Well, I feel like that's the spirit of masterminding also. It's like not only leveraging the collective knowledge and synergy from the group members, but also the people that you're connected to. And now that you're in the podcasting space, those connections just explode with all these cool experts and things like that. Like I 100% am planning on leveraging some of those connections, bringing people in. If we're going to talk about sales funnel building or Facebook ads or whatever, I've got some awesome connections that
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
bring people in and make that happen. Um, what do you think about a concept that I would label as office hours? So it would be like an open section on your calendar that people could pop in. Maybe there's an office hours block each week. Maybe it's the last week of the month. Just, I would love to get your thoughts of that
Yeah.
in general, and then specific if it makes sense.
I have a lot of thoughts about this because I've tried it. I tried to put in office hours into the mastermind. And what I realized was it really depends on your audience. If your audience is like me, busy entrepreneurs, they're usually moms to young kids, they don't have time. They're in your mastermind to learn how to do things, how to do fewer things and make more money. So if I'm adding in an office hour, that's adding another meeting on the calendar that they didn't need. So I think it really depends on your audience and in being of service. I love that most of us come from that space of wanting to over deliver and wanting to prove the value of what they're getting and being like, you get X number of meetings and all these templates and whatever. But like a radical idea, like what if it was less? Like you were doing less things and just helping them focus on what is helping them thrive.
Oh,
And I
that hit
think
me between the eyes, Ankita.
yeah. Yeah, of just like, like we see all of these sales pages that are built to like you are getting $25,000 worth of value of like screw that. Like just build something that is like I am helping you be the best entrepreneur you can be the best podcaster you can be by doing less. So like we're not going to have fluff. If you have questions, put it in Voxer and I will get back to you in 24 hours.
That really, this is the problem that I have. I don't want to do all the things, especially when I'm exploring new territory like this. And I do feel that self-imposed pressure of like proving my worth of like, oh, if I'm going to charge this. And by the way, one of my favorite hobbies, my favorite pastimes is to look at random sales pages and go to that little section. This happens a lot in bro marketing. Sorry, bros, where they do like, they come up with those random value amounts like, and this is worth $737 and
Yes.
this is worth $8,243.42. And they come up with like this giant weird number that makes no sense. And like, this is all the value and it's only $94. And I'm like, what is this? Like, how do you even come up with these weird, it's like they're
Exactly.
throwing darts at a value dartboard. Like, oh, 7,742. That's what I'm going to say the value is for that course or whatever. But anyway, that's
Yeah,
neither
right.
here
I
nor
mean
there.
it's just like I think it's more us than other people because I think that they don't really judge us by that. Like Adam, just to tell you, like when we worked one on one, like some of our meetings were 15 minutes, but we got what we needed to done in 15 minutes. You could have done hour-long meetings, but like what purpose would that have served? Like it
Right.
wouldn't have been any different besides
Right.
how much time you were spending. And so this is just like for anyone that feels the need to give more, it's like asking yourself, like, are you giving more because you genuinely think that people need more? Are you doing it because you want to justify the cost of what you're charging? So
Yes. Wow. All right. Ankita's dropping some truth bombs on me over here, folks. Uh, so we've talked a lot about format, different things you can add in, value adds, building community, getting the community involved. What about any glaring mistakes, either that you've made yourself or that you see other people making in the space? Anything that, as a new mastermind builder or people that are listening and they're thinking about uh, optimizing a mastermind or launching one, anything that you would encourage them to avoid completely or really look out for?
I would not have people sign up for a mastermind without talking to them on a sales call because you want the people in the mastermind to really be in that space of community and trust. And I just think on a container like that you cannot allow the way that everyone else works together.
So that is a huge tip. we're asking these people to invest a significant amount of money usually. Like that's something we have to take seriously. And I think getting some FaceTime, like, yeah, I'm the same way. I really don't want to trust somebody got all hyped up off a sales page that I put together and be like, let's get in. Because if they get in and then they don't follow through, or like, I feel like if you talk to them face to face, you can get those vibes of like, this seems like they're an implementer, they're community people, they're going to add energy to the community,
Yeah.
or they seem like somebody's going to flake out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I would do, right? Is in the on the mastermind page, I would have a mastermind application. On the application, you just ask them the questions like, what is their revenue level? How long have they been recording that podcast for? What is their approximate audience size? What is their goal? What's holding them back? Like just a few questions to really get a sense of them and their commitment. Because if they don't fill that application out, like fully, you know that they're not
Right.
committed. And if they don't know the answers to those questions, that's great because you can help them define that in the mastermind. But there's a difference of and then signing up for a sales call. So sometimes, see, I've seen some masterminds where the form is so detailed that they don't need to talk to you after. Um, but the other thing that I do is on day one establish ground rules. Really important, right? Of just saying the ground rules are nothing would make me happier than you guys hiring each other, but this is not a place to sell.
Uh,
So if someone reaches out to you, then please like help them first. Like we in this group, we lead with service. Like you will organically end up hiring each other, but do not expect that. Do not be selling. Do not be DMing each other to like sign up for whatever. Lead with service. Like think of these people as like your best friends, as your family, as the people that have your back.
yes. So with that etiquette, is it more of like, don't actively recruit somebody, but if they ask you, "Hey, I know you do this. I'd like to find out more about that." If the other person initiates it and they want to have a conversation about potentially hiring you, is that okay? Or
Yes.
like, okay,
I think it's okay. There are some masterminds that I have heard of, and even my certification program where we're not allowed to hire each other while we're in it. You can hire each
okay,
other once it ends, but you're not allowed to hire each other during it. And I understand that for my certification program, by the way, because it's a year long. And if you hire each other and something goes wrong, then you're stuck in
yeah,
that container for a year. Um, and additionally, like with my certification, you're learning so many different techniques and tools and methodologies and modalities, and we're practicing. We have like 100 coaching hours. Like you don't want to hire someone preemptively and be using the same tools on them that you're also learning, like in that very moment. So I think it just depends on what your container is and what you feel. But I feel like for you, Adam, and for me, I just feel like I have no business in telling them they can't hire each other. Like
right,
I want to build that collaborative space, but it's just making sure that they're not selling in there to each other.
yeah, yeah. That makes total sense. Um,
And
now,
also, by the
yeah,
way, I've had some bad fits for the mastermind before. And that's a situation that you also are prepared for, right? Like, I mean, you can deal with anything in the moment, but you're also like, okay, if this happens, how do I deal with it? Like, if somebody is in the mastermind and they're not being good, or they're not following the rules, like, how do you either talk to them or like ask them to leave?
hit the refund button. Oh man,
Pretty much remove them from
yeah.
the invites and hit the refund button. Yeah, pretty
Oh
much.
wow,
But like you have
yeah,
to be prepared to do that. And like, if you're setting your bank account up or you're paying yourself on a schedule, you just have to leave a certain amount in because stuff like this happens.
yeah. That's an important tip as well. We gotta keep that buffer zone in mind. Um, now, one of the things that we worked on when we were working together, obviously, you had the successful mastermind, and you wanted to, leverage your podcast and build up some more one-on-one coaching. You're kind of getting back into the one-on-one zone a little bit. Um, how are you making those two offers kind of coexist? And like, who is? I feel like it's important. This is something that I know we talked about a lot. Is like, who
Yeah.
is the mastermind client versus who is the one-on-one client? How have you worked on defining that so that the right people get into the right offer?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I think what's unique about my case is my one on one is me with a client, whereas my mastermind is me and another coach with a group of people. And I think what's really kind of been really cool for me is my one-on-one clients are in two categories. Either they're people that worked in a corporate job and were successful in a corporate job, but they have a business idea that they can't quite shake off and they really want to explore starting it. And so we work together in a 12-week container to get them from idea to launch. Um, and I've seen a great success with this. I've really kind of nurtured and grown this part of my business. And then the next part of my business, which I am just about to announce, and I'm really excited to say it here first, is really enrolling people into a 6-month container where they get one-on-one time with me, plus they get to be in community with each other. And that is for both founders and for non-founders, of people that just really want to step into their highest alignment, that want to be the best version of themselves in life, at home, and like show up authentically in everything that they do, make more money in the process, but also be a more present parent or a more present spouse.
Yeah, I feel like you've put in a lot of work to clearly define not only who you're trying to help, but how you're trying to help them and the correct path for them to take. And I feel like you're very, you having a show called Heart Led Entrepreneur is very appropriate, because I feel like you're very much, you keep your ideal, I hate to even call it a client, but like somebody that you help out, you keep them top of mind and their journey, the result that you're trying to produce. And I can tell you take a lot of ownership over that. So I just want to kind of applaud that effort, because I've had a little bit of behind the scenes look at how you are operating your business, how you are creating these offers. And I think there need to be more heart-led entrepreneurs out there. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
thank you.
bro marketing entrepreneurs and a lot of slimy salesy entrepreneurs. So I love this movement that you're putting
Yeah,
out
I mean,
there.
and just to say, right, like my background, like I worked in venture, I lived on a meditation retreat site. I went to business school. I worked in nonprofit funding climate innovation. So like really like I have been combining the spirituality and strategy, or like the heart and the mind, like my whole life. And really now it's like combining all the things that I have done and all the parts of myself and training into a structure so I can help everyone else do the same.
Yes. So good. My friend Ankita, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on and just unpacking the mastermind, everything you're doing with that, answering all my questions. This has been very helpful for me. I know there's a lot of people in my audience that are going to want to dive a little bit deeper into your world. They're going to want to kind of see what you got cooking. So what is the best place to go to if they want to do that?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Ankita Tarul, or just visit ankitatarul.com. Um, and Adam, you can put that maybe in the show notes. But
Yep.
I would love to talk. Honestly, I love having like just, coffee chats with people, having conversations just to really see how we can support each other. If I can help you, if I can just ask you a question that changes your perspective on where you're at in your business or in your life.
Yeah. And I highly recommend you all reach out to Ankita. She's a great connector. Like she's she's like, I want you to meet some of these people. You got to come to this thing. And boom, I'm in front of a couple really high level people that I've benefited from knowing. So it's really cool. So definitely reach out to her. I'll put the link in the show notes. Ankita, I appreciate you coming on so much, my friend.
Yeah, Adam, can I ask you a question before we hang up? What is
Of
your
course.
next step with the mastermind after our conversation?
The next step with the mastermind is I am currently doing pre-mastermind sessions. So my goal is to launch in January. I've never run a mastermind before, so it's kind of practice for me, and it's also a kind of a taste tester, appetizer for people that are thinking about potentially joining. And I actually did my first one last night. It went really well, but after our conversation, I think with the format that you suggested, I'm going to make some tweaks to that and make it even better. But I want to get some practice going, and people are already interested in filling out application to join and things like that. So I'm going to map out my next session for August, and I'll probably do it on my birthday because I'm turning 43. And yeah, we'll have a little Adam's birthday mastermind prep party, and it'll be a lot better based off of what we discussed here today. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. I'm really excited for you.
Cool. All right, Pod Pals. I think you got a lot to think about, especially if you're thinking about monetizing with a mastermind. So you may want to listen to this one over again and look at those notes, take action, and implement what you have learned. And with that, I'm going to send you out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.